Ben Simmons just got dumped by his own agent, and what happened behind the scenes will shock you. We're talking about a three-time All-Star who's now being whispered about in retirement circles at just 29 years old. This isn't just another NBA drama story. This is the unraveling of one of basketball's most perplexing careers, and the details that just emerged paint a picture nobody saw coming. When Bernie Lee officially notified the NBA Players Association that he was removing himself as Ben Simmons' representative, it sent shockwaves through league circles. But here's what makes this absolutely wild. Agents don't just drop clients out of nowhere. These relationships are business partnerships built on mutual benefit. And when an agent walks away, especially one who's been with a player through massive contracts and career-defining moments, it means something way deeper than just a professional disagreement. Bernie Lee has been in Simmons' corner through the Philadelphia disaster, the holdout drama, the trade to Brooklyn, and everything that followed. For him to officially cut ties now, filing the paperwork with the Players Association to make it official, tells you everything about where this situation is spiraled. Agents make money when their clients make money. So when they're willing to walk away from potential commissions, you know the writing's on the wall. But that wasn't even the most damaging part of this story. What's really got NBA insiders talking is how spectacularly things fell apart with the Clippers. Remember, this was supposed to be Simmons' redemption arc. After getting bought out by Brooklyn in February, the Clippers swooped in thinking they could unlock what Philadelphia and the Nets couldn't. They had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, a championship-caliber supporting cast, and the kind of defensive identity where Simmons should have thrived. Instead, what happened was a masterclass in how quickly things can go sideways in the league. Simmons joined the Clippers with all the hope in the world, and within months, he'd completely faded out of their rotation. We're talking about a guy who was averaging 15 points, 8 assists, and 7 rebounds just a few seasons ago. Now sitting on the bench watching role players get his minutes. The Clippers coaching staff tried everything, different positions, limited roles, specific matchups, but nothing clicked. It's like watching a former Ferrari try to compete as a Honda Civic. And here's where things get really concerning for Simmons' future. Multiple sources around the league are saying he's not just struggling with confidence or fit issues anymore, the physical toll is becoming impossible to ignore. Those back surgeries that kept him out for extended periods, they're not just ancient history. At 29, his body is sending him messages that most players don't get until their mid-30s. And the combination of physical limitations and mental struggles has created a perfect storm. League executives who've watched him up close describe a player who looks nothing like the Ben Simmons who terrorized teams defensively and ran fast breaks like a 6'10" point guard. His explosiveness is gone, his confidence is shattered, and his role in today's NBA has become almost impossible to define. When you can't shoot, won't shoot, and now can't defend at an elite level or create transition opportunities, what exactly are you bringing to a contending team? But here's the kicker that's driving the retirement speculation. Simmons is reportedly looking for a contract above the veteran minimum, and that's where reality hits hard. After making over $150 million in his career, including that massive extension with Philadelphia, he's now in a position where teams are questioning whether he's worth even a mid-level exception. The gap between his expectations and his market value has become a canyon. And that's exactly the kind of situation that pushes players toward early retirement. What makes this even more fascinating is the timing. Training camps are right around the corner, free agency is winding down, and here's a former All-Star without an agent and without a team. In the NBA, that combination usually means one of two things. Either you're about to sign for way less than you ever imagined, or you're seriously considering walking away from the game entirely. For someone who's dealt with as much public criticism and personal struggle as Simmons has over the past few years, retirement might actually feel like relief rather than failure.
The whispers coming out of league circles paint a picture of a player who's mentally and physically exhausted. People close to the situation describe someone who's tired of being the constant subject of trade rumors, performance debates, and social media criticism. When you've been in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons for this long, the idea of stepping away and finding peace away from basketball starts to look pretty attractive, especially when you've already secured generational wealth. Here's what's really wild about this whole situation. We're potentially watching the end of one of the most unique talents the league has ever seen. Love him or hate him, there's never been another player quite like Ben Simmons. A 6'10" point guard who could guard all 5 positions, run an offense and dominate games without scoring? That's not normal. And the fact that it might be over at 29 because of mental barriers and physical breakdown is honestly tragic from a pure basketball perspective. The Clippers experiment was supposed to be his last real shot at proving he belonged on a contending team. They gave him the perfect environment: veteran leadership, championship expectations, a defined role, and minimal pressure compared to what he faced in Philadelphia and Brooklyn. If he couldn't make it work there, with that roster and that coaching staff, where exactly could he make it work? That's the question that's haunting front offices around the league right now. What's even crazier is how this compares to his peak years. In 2020 and 2021, Simmons was still considered one of the most versatile players in basketball. Teams were building entire defensive schemes around him. He was finishing top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year voting. And despite the shooting concerns, he was still impacting winning at the highest level. The transformation from that player to someone who can't even secure a rotation spot with the Clippers is honestly unprecedented in modern NBA history. The agent situation just confirms what many around the league have suspected for months. When Bernie Lee decided to officially cut ties, filing all the necessary paperwork with the Players Association, it wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. These conversations had been building for weeks, maybe months, as it became clear that Simmons' market value had completely collapsed and his future in the league was genuinely uncertain. Think about it from the agent's perspective. You're dealing with a client who's gone from max contract player to someone who might not even get minimum offers from contending teams. The phone calls aren't coming in, the interest isn't there, and every conversation with front offices ends the same way. Thanks, but we'll pass. At some point, continuing that relationship becomes more about charity than business, and agents can't operate that way long-term. But here's where the story takes an even more dramatic turn. League sources are suggesting that retirement isn't just being discussed as a possibility, it's being seriously considered as the most likely outcome. We're not talking about taking a year off or waiting for the right opportunity. We're talking about a 29-year-old former All-Star potentially walking away from basketball entirely because the gap between what he wants and what the league is willing to offer has become unbridgeable. The most shocking part about all of this? It didn't have to end this way. Simmons had every tool needed to be a perennial All-Star and championship contributor. The size, athleticism, basketball IQ, and defensive instincts were all there. But basketball is as much mental as it is physical. And when confidence disappears and self-doubt takes over, even the most talented players can find themselves on the outside looking in. What happens next could define not just Simmons' legacy, but how we think about player development and mental health in professional sports. If he does retire, it'll be one of the most cautionary tales in NBA history. A reminder that talent alone isn't enough, and that the mental side of the game can make or break even the most gifted athletes. The clock is ticking as training camps approach, and every day that passes without a new agent or team interest makes retirement look more realistic. For a player who once seemed destined for greatness, we might be witnessing one of the most unexpected endings in basketball history. The question isn't whether Ben Simmons can still play in the NBA, it's whether he still wants to. And after everything that's happened, that answer might surprise everyone.